taxicabs in a single country often share a set of common properties, but there is a wide variation from country to country in the vehicles used, the circumstances under which they may be hired and the regulatory regime to which these are subject. Afghanistan. Old-style Toyota Corona, GAZ-21, Volga, VAZ-2101, Zhiguli, and Lada taxicabs in Afghanistan are still used as regular taxis. Albania. In Albania, taxicabs are easier to be found. In Tirana, the capital city, they are all painted in yellow with various signs on the roof. The official taxis have yellow plates with red text. The Albanian word is taxi, but most of the signs are in English. The most preferred cars are Mercedes-Benz E-Class, but lately, the law forces taxi drivers to buy cars that are younger than 10 years old. 90% of the taxicabs are private. There are only 2 companies operating and they only operate in Tirana. The biggest one, Mare Taxi, operates with Hyundai Elantra, Mitsubishi Lancer and Skoda Rapid, while Speed Taxi operates with Skoda Rapid and Skoda Superb. Beside the 2 companies, very few drivers use the taximeter. Argentina. In Argentina, taxicabs are called taxis. In the capital Buenos Aires, the colors of the taxis are black with yellow roofs, as a reference to the many Peugeot 504 which served as taxis in the 1980s, which used the same paint layout. The licensing is a central government function. Today, most models are Chevrolet Corsa and Fiat Siena, with retrofitted a factory-built 10 GV power plants, which means much lower fuel costs than gasoline. Australia. Australia used horse-drawn taxis once cities were established. Motor vehicle taxis were introduced into Australia not long after they were put into service in the United Kingdom and Europe. In 1906, Sydney inaugurated motorised taxis, and in approximately 1907 so did Queensland, and other states followed soon after. The progress through the years included many types of tours from the 1910 era until the late 1920s, with British and American cars predominating. Sedans were added during the late 1920s and included similar makes of vehicles. This was the case with all cars being imported into Australia until World War II began. American cars proved more suitable to Australian motoring conditions, especially for taxis. General Motors Corporation built thousands in Australia, as did the other American companies, including Ford Motor Company and Chrysler. Most taxis in Australia are now the Ford Falcon, Holden Commodore or Toyota Camry, with most using LPG fuel. More recently, the Chrysler 300C Turbo Diesel and BMW 5 Series Diesel have been introduced to replace the phased-out Fairlane. The Toyota Prius is also used in metropolitan areas. There are also maxi-taxis, which mostly are for hire minibuses, Toyota Hiaces, Volkswagen multivans and Mercedes-Benz Vitos are typically used. Taxis can also be maxi-taxis, seating more than 4 passengers, or a wheelchair passenger. The release of hybrid cars has been slow, but is beginning to replace LPG taxis. Bangladesh. Taxis in Bangladesh generally of Toyota Corolla, Toyota Premio and Toyota Allion in yellow color. Taxi fare in Bangladesh generally starts from 80 taka per kilometer. Almost all taxis now run on LPG as well as diesel. Bulgaria. Until the fall of socialism in Bulgaria, all taxis were VAZ-2101 and Moskvich 2138. Today in Sofia, Hyundai Sonata taxis are mainly found. In 2013, green Toyota Prius taxis were introduced. China. In China, taxicabs are very common throughout the country. Tencent's Dididake is a smartphone application especially designed for ZTE and Huawei which matches passengers and willing taxi drivers who are situated in close proximity. For passengers, a list of nearby taxicabs is created via GPS, and a signal is sent out indicating an expression of interest. Conversely, for taxi drivers with the app installed on their phones, the GPS system quickly lists and localizes nearby potential clients, and once a match is created, the taxi can efficiently pick up awaiting passengers. Dididake is a dominant player in China's taxi-hailing arena, with a market share exceeding 60% and service extending to 32 cities including the Tier 1 conurbations of Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen. Dididake in 2014 has 40 million registered users, a doubling from 2013's user base, and every month, more than 21 million cab rides are booked through the service, or 700,000 bookings per day. Additionally, from the taxicab perspective, Dididake already has an extensive user base of taxi drivers of more than 350,000 vehicles across China, most of which are BYD-6. Others are Luxcan. Even in very small villages, there will be cars for hire. In smaller towns and villages, taxicabs are generally unregulated and may consist of a bike with a carriage, or more commonly, motorcycles with extensions that allow 3 people to sit in the rear. Even in large cities, taxicabs are generally very lax forms of transportation. Taxicabs in Shanghai may not refuse to go to any destination within the city. Relative to the West, taxicabs are very cheap, and in smaller areas the fare may be yuan per person. Colombia. In Colombia, taxicabs are yellow in most of the cities. The most common taxicab around is the Hyundai Atos, praised for its fuel economy. Other similar popular taxicab vehicles include the Chevrolet Matiz and the Kia Picanto. Egypt. Taxicabs are common in Egypt, particularly in the larger cities. The taxi system is highly decentralized, with the cab generally belonging to the driver and operated as a private business by him. Consequently, there is some variation in the types of cars used as taxis, although the Tofasahan and Hyundai accent predominate. Drivers must obtain a taxi license from the government, generally through the offices of the governorate in which they are based. However, taxis are permitted to operate between cities. Drivers must also paint their cars according to a livery unique to each governorate, including painting the license plate number of the cab on its doors in both Arabic and English. The traditional liveries of Cairo and Alexandria are well known to all Egyptians and indeed across the Arab world from their appearance in Egyptian film and television. Meters are technically required by Egyptian law, but they generally go unused and in many cases do not even work. The prime exception is in Cairo, where a new class of taxi with a different livery have electronic meters installed and used. In most other cases, the price of a journey is generally determined through negotiation or bargaining between the passenger and driver, either just after the cab is hailed or just after the destination is reached. Many, if not most, Egyptian taxi drivers have some education and frequently work in white-collar professions that nevertheless come with low pay. Taxis are a common source of supplemental income for many Egyptian families. Consequently, taxi drivers are a common source of vox populi for foreign media sources. Finland. After World War II, Russian cars, especially Pobeda and Volga, dominated the taxi market in Finland for several years. In the late 1950s, the import restriction on cars was lifted for taxi operators, which made it feasible to import Western cars in larger numbers. By the end of 1960s, Mercedes Mercedes-Benz in particular had gained a dominant position, accounting for up to half the taxi stock, and the Finnish distributor of Mercedes, Veho, even has a separate taxi sales department. Mercedes has remained the archetypal taxi ever since, although other makes such as Volvo and the Vaj brands are also common. Taxis in Finland do not have to be liveried in any particular color or pattern. They are recognizable from the yellow TAKSI sign on the roof, which is illuminated when the taxi is available for hire. Taxis mainly gather at special taxi ranks, rather than being hailed. Customers either walk to the taxi rank and take the first available taxi from the front of the queue, or wait at the rank for a taxi to appear. One can also order a taxi by telephone etc. to a specific address. Former Yugoslavia. In the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, Mercedes-Benz W123, Mercedes-Benz W115 and Mercedes-Benz 220S were mostly used, but Zastavas, Gazvolgas and many other brands of cars were common as well. France. The first horse-drawn forerunners of taxis appeared on Parisian streets in 1637. France was one of the first countries to use modern taxis, that is, gasoline-powered vehicles with fare meters. New York's first taxis were imported from France in 1907, and taxis were famously used for troop transportation during the First Battle of the Marne. Within last 2 decades, a big part of taxis in France were Peugeot cars. Among them we can find the mythic Peugeot 406 used in Taxi, the French action comedy film. Other brands include Skoda, Citroën and Renault. Mercedes are common in Paris. Many French taxis included mainly Peugeot, Renault, and Citroën cabs by the past. Today Skoda, Mercedes Bluetech and Toyota Prius hybrid cars are also largely used. Germany. In the history of the taxi, perhaps an important step was relative to the invention of the taximeter by German Friedrich Wilhelm Gustav Brunn, engineer in 1891, and a Daimler Victoria, the world's first meter-equipped taxicab, was built by Gottlieb Daimler in 1897. In Germany today, taxicabs are mostly a light pale yellow, beige, with a small illuminated cylinder-like taxi sign on the roof of the car. Typically the taxicabs are Mercedes-Benz E-Class and S-Class along with other, mainly German, brands. Taxicabs are either sedans, station wagons, or MPVs. Common station wagon taxicabs include Mercedes-Benz C-Class. Among the MPVs, Mercedes-Benz B-Class and Mercedes-Benz Vianos are common. Most taxicabs are automatic transmission, and some have navigation systems on board. Rates are usually near to other Western European countries, however. In Berlin, taxis have a special low fare called Kurzstrecke for distances less than 2 kilometers, very useful for old people. Except in Portugal, in other Western European capitals usually the minimum fare to take a taxi costs double. Netherlands. The convenience and high quality of public transportation in most German cities eliminates the necessity for German citizens to use taxicabs. Although allowed, street hail is a relatively uncommon practice in Germany because cabs rarely circle the cities when vacant. Because there are relatively few customers, most cabs return to assigned waiting stations and are called on demand. Although this has proven to be more economic for cab drivers, it is considered very inconvenient for commuters because taxis include the ride from the waiting station to the pickup point in the fare. Guyana. In Guyana, taxis are most commonly Toyota Coronas, Toyota Corollas, and Nissan Laurels. Any vehicle registered with the first letter as H is a taxi. There are over 20,000 registered taxis in the country. Some cars are not registered to be taxis but still operate as them. They are called private hire cars and operate illegally in the country. They have P plates and are not authorized to operate as taxis. As of 2010, taxis are required to be painted yellow. They also have a sticker on the rear bumper that reads Hackney Carriage, Hong Kong. During the early colonial times, sedan chairs were the only form of public conveyances. Public chairs were licensed and charged according to tariffs which would be prominently displayed. Chair stands were found at all hotels, wharves, and major crossroads. The numbers peaked in about 1920. The pulled rickshaw, first imported from Japan in 1870, was a popular form of transport for many years, peaking at more than 7,000 in the early part of the 20th century. The rickshaw and sedan chair vied for customers depending on the budget, haste, or terrain to be negotiated. The rickshaw was more rapid, but was not suited to climbing the steep terrain of Hong Kong Island. Rickshaws' popularity waned after World War II. There were about 8 in 1998, and only 4 left in 2002. The last sedan chair was reportedly abandoned in 1965, and the rickshaws have disappeared since the ferry's closure at the end of 2006. The earliest modern taxi service was first officially recorded by the government in 1947 with 329 cars. In Hong Kong today, there are 3 types of taxis painted in different colors, serving different parts of the territory. The most common one, which is painted in red. The red taxi serves throughout Hong Kong Island and Kowloon. Green taxis serve the New Territories and blue taxis serve Lantau Island. Most taxis in Hong Kong are Toyota Crown Comforts. Taxis pick up passengers from streets or by radio dispatch by phone. Fares are charged according to the distance measured by meters. Surcharges include tolls, luggages and pets. Hungary. In Budapest, the capital of Hungary, from 2013 every taxis must be painted in yellow. Some include Skoda Octavia, Skoda Superb and Mercedes-Benz E-Class. India. In India, taxicabs have a yellow-black livery. Old taxicabs in India are Premier Padmani Hindustan Ambassador cars, whereas private taxicabs include Audi, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Tata and Amp Mahindra. The newer taxis are white, one of the many reasons why the expensive taxis have been dubbed white taxis by the locals in cities. Taxis and all other commercial vehicles have a yellow number plate, so charging taxes and toll in highways is easier for the officials. Depending on the city, state, taxis can either be hailed, booked through applications, or can be hired from taxi stands. In cities such as Bangalore, taxis need to be hired from taxi stands, whereas in cities like Kolkata and Mumbai, taxis can be hailed on the street. There are additional surcharges for luggage, late-night rides, and toll taxes are to be paid by the passenger. Thanks to the booming economy but due to disparities in income, many types of taxis have come up. For example, in Delhi there are 5 types of taxi: auto rickshaws, normal taxis, radio cabs, white taxis and tourist taxis. In areas like Noida and Gurgaon, auto rickshaws are banned, thus giving the taxis a monopoly. Chandigarh also has a well-established system of modern radio cabs. By government regulations, all taxis are required to have a fare meter installed. Taxis face stiff competition from auto rickshaws, but in some cities, for example Mumbai, auto rickshaws have banned in the main city district, thus giving taxis a monopoly. This monopoly directly affects the kind of cars used in India as cabs, as well as the kind of economical and transport conditions. In many parts the taxis are usually Renault India Logan, Tata Indica, Indegard, Toyota Nova. Mahindra Verito, Xylo, Maruti Omni, EECO, Swift Desire. Chennai taxis drivers can speak English very well and very tourist-friendly. Indonesia. Taxicabs began to be popular in Jakarta from the early 1970s with cars such as the Datsun 220C, Holden Torana, and Toyota Corona. Smaller cars, for example the Toyota Corolla and various types of Datsun, were also used from mid-1970s to late 1980s. In the 1970s, taxicabs were in various colors, although at the time mostly yellow, and a major operator ran light blue taxicabs. The main vehicle replacement for most taxicab operators was in mid-1980s when they replaced their old fleet with Nissan Stanza 1.6011. With the exception of the popular light blue, all other operators had their Stanzas painted yellow, due to poor sales in the private car market, but good fuel economy and reliability. Holden Gemini diesel cars were used as taxicabs during the 1980s. The same happened to Nissan Sunnies and Ford Lazys from the late 1980s to late 1990s. Since the color of most reliable taxicab company in Jakarta is medium blue metallic, few other operators copied the color, and even the shape of the roof sign. This could mislead someone when hailed a taxicab on the street. Although most taxicabs are blue, there are also painted in any color, depends on the operators. The new taxicabs in Jakarta are mostly Toyota Limo, which is a lower spec of Toyota Vios. Before the introduction of Limo in 2004, the most popular taxi was Toyota Soluna, which based on the 1995 Toyota Tercel. The Solunas and the older variants of Limo are now used by cheaper taxicabs. Other cars also used as taxicabs are Hyundai XL and Kia Rio. Only one operator ran the Nissan Sunny 1.6 Neo and later replaced by the newer Nissan cars, the TE Delatio and the Almera. By 2014, the Nissan Almera is also commonly used for taxicabs. A Honda Mobilio is also used by one operator since 2015. There are also executive taxicabs. These have black Nissan Cedric Y31 on Toyota Crown Comfort, and recently a W203 Mercedes-Benz C-Class, a W211 Mercedes-Benz E-Class, a Toyota Alphard, a Hyundai Sonata, and a Nissan Elgrand. With the launch of new Toyota Limo NCP93 in 2007, 3 generations of Toyota's small sedan are used for taxicab services in Indonesia. However, in the executive taxicab segment, only few Toyota Crown Comfort. In 2007, the executive fleet saw the arrival of the Mercedes-Benz C-Class, followed by the Mercedes-Benz E-Class and the Toyota Alphard in 2009. An executive taxicab operator has added the Volkswagen Caravelle to its fleet, and soon the Hyundai Starex. Batam. The taxicabs in Batam consist of mostly facelifted Toyota Corolla GLI E110 sedans. Other popular models include the Nissan Sunny, Mitsubishi Lancer, and Toyota Crown Comfort. Licensed taxis have yellow license plates fixed, whereas illegal ones use white plates. Iraq. Before 2003, the most common taxis were the 1980 Toyota Crown 1980, 1981 Toyota Corona, 1980 Chevrolet Malibu, 1983 to 1988 Volkswagen Passat. After 2003, they changed into the Cypress Arbor, BYD F3, Cherry Cohen, Geely CK, Mitsubishi Lancer, Renault Logan, Chevrolet, Nissan Sunny, Hyundai Elantra, Hyundai Accent and Dodge Charger. Ireland. In the Republic of Ireland, the term taxi is reserved for vehicles that may pick up on streets and where the fare is determined by a meter. In 2006, there were over 16,000 taxis in the Republic, the majority in Dublin. Taxi vehicles do not have to be a particular color, but all carry a distinctive roof sign with the license number prominently displayed, some with the Irish word TACSAI instead of the usual taxi. Also a sticker are stickers that determine the boundaries by county. These stickers carry a letters that reflect the number plate county code, and as of January 2013, a green and blue taxi sticker is required on the front doors. In September 2006, a nationwide taxi fare system was introduced so that charges no longer depend on the county or city council area. Ford Mondeo and Toyota Avensis, along with Skoda, Renault and Nissan, are the most common types of taxi cab, but free cycle rickshaws sponsored by 7up are also used, and a new fleet of TACSAI-THEGHLAISE is due to launch in the near future. These will be all electric and include the Nissan Leaf and Mitsubishi i. No vehicle is allocated as an Irish taxi cab, but they must have at least 4 doors. The term hackney is used in Ireland to refer to a service which can only carry passengers from a pre-booked destination to another destination, similar to a minicab in Britain. Such vehicles are indicated by a small yellow plate above the registration plate with the word hackney and the license information. They normally operate for an agreed fare. Both taxis and hackneys are licensed by the Commission for Taxi Regulation, Israel. There are 2 taxi systems in Israel, with one operating as a standard taxi service and the other as a cross between a taxi and a private bus system. The latter tends to run longer journeys or particular routes and is effectively a shared taxi, hence set pick-up and set-down locations, but also potentially picking up or dropping off anywhere en route. Although fares are officially meter-based, it is quite common to agree the fare in advance with the driver. They have a directory guide for prices and will show the estimated alternative to the meter price, either to be accepted, negotiated or rejected by the traveler if the meter is preferred. The wisdom of the choice may be based on time of day and traffic and whether you have bags, etc., which could cost more on the meter as each piece adds a set amount. Either way, the eventual fare is not usually significantly different, so many Israelis choose the meter without a thought. Tipping is not required, but rounding up is common. In Italy, taxi cabs are white with a small illuminated taxi white sign on black background on the roof of the car. There are 25,186 taxis in the country. Mercedes-Benz, Ford and Fiat models are common. MPV minivan taxicabs are also prevalent, such as the Fiat Multipla, Fiat Ulus, Fiat Doblo and Ford Galaxy. There is at present time a harsh political struggle between people who advocate deregulation of taxi licenses and those who are against it. Taxi fares are generally very high. Japan. In most parts of Japan, there are many taxi cabs of various colors and styles. Japan has no limitation in taxi cab design, so each taxi cab company adopts their own design, but owner-driver taxi cabs use a prescribed design. In Osaka, most taxi cabs are black because they are also used as limousine taxis. Most Japanese taxis are one of 3 types of cars: a Toyota Comfort Type, Nissan Crew, and Nissan Cedric Y31. They all have automatic passenger doors, which open when a button is pressed by the driver. However, elite taxis may have drivers that manually open the door for you. Recently, some taxi companies have selected Toyota Crown S170 and/or S180 as taxis because cars made for use as taxis have very plain interiors. In Lithuania, taxi cabs are called taxi. All of them have a small, yellow illuminated cylinder-like taxi sign on the roof of the car and black-yellow square lines on the sides. At the capital city Vilnius, taxi cabs are divided into two categories: expensive and cheap ones. Expensive ones charges 3 Lithuanian litas and 99 cents for getting in and 2.39 to 2.99 LTL per kilometer. They use white, brand new Ford C-Max. A Volkswagen Touran allows passengers to pay for the trip using credit card. Uses tablet computers instead of radio to communicate. Drivers has special uniform. Cheap taxis in Lithuania mostly uses older vehicles of high classes such as Volkswagen Passat or Audi A6 instead of Chevrolet Spark. Similar charges 2 Lithuanian litas for getting in and around 2 Lithuanian litas per kilometer. They don't have specific color and can be recognized only by yellow taxi sign on the roof or black-yellow square lines on the sides. Malaysia. In Malaysia, taxi cabs are also referred to as taxi. There are several taxi operators running within Malaysia. Most taxi cabs use the preferred car of choice. The Proton Saga is Wara Saloon since the 1990s and a distinct fleet of cabs of the newer generation of Proton Saga since the 2010s. Mexico. In Mexico City, according to Mexican legislation introduced in 2001, public taxi cabs must be four-door painted in red with a white roof, and almost all new taxis are Nissan Cirrus. Before 2001, most taxi cabs were green Volkswagen Beetles with a white roof. They had the front passenger seat removed in order to ease entry for passengers. At the moment, the taxi population is in a transition period, with both types in use. Originally, taxis were yellow with the white roof, until they were changed in the mid-90s. As in most of the world, a special license must be obtained in order to run a taxi cab.